Welcome back, everybody. Hey, Coach on the Nick Saban Show, live here in Tuscaloosa, presented by Alpha Insurance. Coach Nick Saban, great to see you, sir, and welcome to another season.
Well, thank you, Eli, but it's good to have you back, and I think everybody should show their appreciation. And
thank you. You're very kind, sir.
You've been a great part of the tradition here for many, many years, and I know a lot of people appreciate it as I do.
Well, thank you. You're very, very kind. And you know this gentleman sitting beside us,
yeah.
Tom Hart. Tom Hart, he'll be on the call Saturday on the SEC Network. Good to have you with us, sir.
Oh, it's great to be here. And speaking of the radio situation this year, Coach, and I've taken a lot of questions about the quarterback situation, so I've got a suggestion, okay?
Yeah.
Now, Eli and Chris are going to split home and road, right?
Yeah.
Have you given any thought to starting one quarterback for home games and another one for road games?
Not really.
I didn't think so.
No, I wouldn't. And not if they play like either Chris or I can play. So that's. But it is, you know.
But I do think one thing, and I know this everybody's sort of going to be interested in this whole quarterback situation, is the quarterback who plays on Saturday. That's the quarterback for Saturday.
Yeah.
And the life of a quarterback, on any quarterback, depends on how they perform. So if a guy plays well, that's what creates security at that position. And if you don't play well, because the first thing everybody does, when you have success, the quarterback gets a lot of credit. But also when things don't go well, the first guy they point at is the quarterback. So a guy's got to understand that the way he performs is really, really important. And, you know, all three guys have made significant improvement. We'd like to play more than one guy in a game. So I've told the guy that's going to start the game that we want you to play well enough so we have an opportunity to play other guys at the position because that's important for us. So we just have to go. But this is not, whoever starts the game, it's not their job in perpetuity. Mm-hmm. Because they have to perform well. And because they don't have a lot of experience, I think we're all interested in seeing how they all perform.
I remember years ago, Wimp Sanderson, our old basketball coach, he would say to us, he goes, it doesn't matter who starts, it's who's on the floor when the game is on the line. And that's a good point, too.
No question about that. We need to get the right guy on the floor then for sure.
No doubt. Tom, jump on in with a question for the coach.
Well, I think people are excited about the season, first and foremost, because it's a new season and it's a new team. I'm curious, you're a man of, you like everything scheduled and regimented for the most part. Do you have the same routine every game day when you come out of the tunnel? And is it any different when you open a season? Are there butterflies for Nick Saban?
Well, absolutely. I think for every game. I think, you know, a certain amount of anxiety, whether you're a competitor, is probably a good thing. You don't want to be too anxious. But I think the better you prepare for a game, the more prepared you are, the less anxiety you have. Because if you're well prepared, you have confidence, and you're going to know that you can go out there and perform well. So you're not going to be as anxious about it because you know you're well prepared. Because you're going to get exposed on Saturday, one way or the other. If you didn't prepare very well, you know, you're probably not going to play very well, and you're probably going to get exposed. If you prepared well and play well, then that's probably not going to happen. And I think a lot of guys really want to win. They really want to be good, but they don't necessarily want to do all the things they need to do to win. They don't do all the things they need to do to be the best that they can be. And you know, it's sort of a part of our culture now that everybody depends on getting motivated by something else. You know, everybody's on their phone all the time. They're motivated by what somebody says about them or whatever. But if you really want to elevate your game, you got to be motivated for yourself, from within yourself. You got to want to be good, and you want to do whatever you have to do to be good. It's not, if somebody else is wanting you to do something more important than you wanting to do it, and if that's the case, you know, you probably got problems. So, you know, we always talk about motivation, but how about talking about elevation? Mm-hmm. You know, that's the Tim Grover guy that spoke to our team, which was Michael Jordan's trainer, who was, you know, had significant comments on The Last Dance, and people would know him from that. But, you know, that's really what he talked about. Do you need somebody to motivate you, or do you elevate your own game? And he actually told a story about Michael Jordan. that he showed them because he was his trainer. This is every practice from the beginning of camp, and this is every game that we play, the whole schedule for the whole season, every practice, every game in the whole NBA season. And he says, I need to know which one of these are most important, which ones are most important practices, most important games. We're going to play this team on Christmas, and it's a big game. And Michael Jordan looked at the sheet, and he circled the whole thing. He said, they're all important.
Yeah.
So because you have to, I'm motivated to play as well as I can play, and I need to do that in every practice. I need to do that in every game. So one's not as important as the other, because if that's the case, then that particular game is my motivation, but I want to be motivated from within what I want to accomplish and what I want to do to try to be the best. So that's an interesting concept, but everybody talks about leadership all the time and how people have to affect other people so that they do things the way they need to do them so they can have success. But if you actually have that, you would be the leader.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we need more of those.
I hear you. Hey, one thing hasn't changed this year. Pee Wee is still our first phone call of the evening. He is going to be sponsored again by Alabama 811 to help prevent injuries, outages, and loss of life. Call 811 or visit alabama811.com before you dig. It's free, it's simple, and it's the law. Pee Wee, how are things in Grand Bay, Alabama?
Doing well, Eli. How about you, sir?
Good, thank you, sir.
So what's
Coach,
up?
how are you this evening?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
I'm doing well, Coach. Fired up for this weekend. The question I wanted to talk about was some depth. You had made a reference a couple weeks ago about you would like to see some more guys play a little bit better to get better depth in the offensive line. But I wanted to know about the rest of the team as well. How is the depth at all the other positions? Where are we good at? You know, where maybe we might be a little bit, need some more guys to step up.
So, Pee Wee, have you had an epiphany since last season? Because this is the first question you ever asked that wasn't about the offensive line. So is there something happening in your life or what?
No, it's just, it is about them as well. But, the rest of the team, because, we just to make sure we got good depth everywhere is all I'm asking.
Yeah, well, here, this is the way of the world now, all right? And everybody needs to probably get used to this because I think everybody's probably got some issues along these lines. You know, what the portal has created, like, we don't lose our best players, but we lose our guys that were the best backup players at a lot of positions who may not start this year, maybe they'd start next year, and they want to go someplace else and start this year. So now what happens to the depth at that position? Now you got a younger player who needs to step up and play maybe before he's ready or maybe before he's had a chance to develop the way you'd like for him to develop. So I think that's just in general something that as coaches, as fans, we all have to sort of deal with because I think the culture of what we're dealing with now in college football sort of creates that to some degree. Now, the good news about that is if you don't have a very good team, you probably can get better faster because you have another resource to be able to get these kind of players. But if you have a really good team, it's harder to maintain the depth on the team because you're going to have more good players, and they're all not going to be playing. So some of them are going to choose to go someplace else. So the young players that you recruit have to do a really, really good job. So to answer your question, I think the offensive line, I'm going to start with that because I know that's what you're most interested in, is really made a lot of improvement. We've got more power at tackle. The inside three guys have experience. And the young players that we have at that position are coming along, so we're developing depth. So, but we only have like 13 offensive linemen on scholarship. Most of the time you have 18. Well, we had 5 guys leave at that position, so it's hard to replace them all. But I do think, we've developed 3 or 4 guys that can play tackle. We got maybe 5 guys that can play inside. So tight ends, a lot better than in the past in terms of depth and quality at that position. Receivers, we got plenty of depth. Running back, we got plenty of depth. Defense, not so much at linebacker, not so much in the secondary because we lost a lot of players at those positions. So we're trying to develop players quickly to add depth at those positions. Defensive line, we do have some good young players that are coming along. So I kind of hit it all. What else you want to talk about?
Well, I think that about covered it, Coach, and I appreciate it, sir.
All right.
Thanks, Pee Wee.
Have a good one, man.
Tom, why don't you jump on in again?
Yeah, Coach, I'm curious. Obviously, a lot of talk of the offseason. You bring in new coordinators on both sides of the ball, one you've worked with before, one that you haven't. Talking with your offensive coordinators specifically over the years, they've all mentioned that, it's my job to acclimate to this program, not the other way around. It's my job to make my terminology what these kids know, not what I know. So how much freedom do you give a new coordinator or position coach even in that regard when they come in and they have other experience to lean on what they know versus what this program has built?
Well, I think that probably on offense, there's a little more latitude, even though we want to keep the same terminology, the same system in terms of how we call plays and formations and those types of things. But there's always room to implement new ideas in terms of things that you do on offense, not to change the system, but maybe to change some of the plays that you run and some of the things that feature the players that you have. I've always said on offense, you've got to have a very diverse system that can take advantage of the players that you have. So maybe some teams you're going to run the ball more and throw play action passes, and other teams, when you have a really good quarterback and good receivers, you're going to throw it more, and maybe that affects your ability to run it. So, but the system doesn't have to change to enhance the personnel in both of those circumstances. So, and that's what I never want to change. So I think Tommy's done a really, really good job of taking our system, implementing some of his ideas into it, and really the running game has improved, in my opinion. Our ability to run the ball different ways, the play action passes that go with it, all those things are better. We had plenty of drop back passes with Bryce. We couldn't even practice them all. So, but we have a good passing game. So we just have to see how the players that we have can implement those things. Now, I think it's a little more difficult for our guys on defense because I'm in that room more 80-20 probably. So they really have to adapt to the way we do things, what we call things, how we do things. Now, they do have input. We can make changes. We have changed, over the years to try to adapt to the way people play, offense now, which is a lot of diversity. I think Kevin's got a lot of experience. He's been in the system before, so I think, he'll adapt to it. But it's not just adapting to it, it's ability to apply it. When you apply it to situations in the game. I think that's the most important thing.
Gentlemen, we're going to take a break for a little business right here. When we come back, we've got questions from folks who have been checking out the coach's comments on AL.com. We'll be hearing from all sorts of people. And if you'd like to join the conversation, you can ask the coach a question on the Yellowhammer Brewing Hotline at 877-202-BAMA. We're back in a moment on the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield. Welcome back, everybody, as we continue on this Thursday night edition of the Nick Saban Show. And this segment of the show is brought to you by Coca-Cola Zero Sugar. With zero sugar and refreshingly delicious, is Coca-Cola Zero Sugar the best Coke ever? Well, find out for yourself, but I think you'll know what the answer is. Coach Nick Saban, presented by Alpha Insurance. For auto, home, and life insurance, call Alpha. Coach making his way back up here on the stage. And our first question from the Nick Saban Show blog at AL.com comes from James in Arab, Alabama. Coach, he says, I'm curious, how will the new running clock rule affect games this season? Thank you, and roll Tide. And, of course, he's referring to the clock not stopping after first downs.
Well, I would say that it'll have absolutely no effect. I think people probably watch NFL games, and the clock doesn't stop on a first down, and most people don't even know that.
Right.
So, And I do think that there could be some strategic situations at end of game where you can't call back-to-back timeouts. Let's say you call timeout because you need to stop the clock. They got 20 guys in the huddle on offense on the other side of the field. They run out on the field. You got the wrong personnel on the field on defense, and you can't call timeout again.
Yeah.
That was the issue for us at LSU in overtime, this year. You only have one timeout. So it would be a similar situation, even though it wasn't overtime or wouldn't be in overtime, where, they had their personnel on the field. We put our personnel on the field, and a player did not come out. So we had 12 guys on the field. So I had to call timeout to get the guy off the field. So then they changed personnel, and we would like to have changed personnel.
But you couldn't.
And couldn't call timeout because we used a timeout before. So that situation now could come up in a regular circumstance in a game, at the end of a game or whatever. That may be the only thing. You can only freeze the kicker one time if you need to freeze the kicker. I mean, that probably strategically could have a greater impact on the game than the clock stopping on first down. But I do think that people should notice how many plays got played in a game. So when we start playing 88, 93, plays in a game, that's a lot of plays for players to play. And it's actually probably about 10 to 12 plays more than an NFL player would play in a game.
Right.
Because of the way the rules are in terms of how the clock stops and all that type of thing. So I do think some of these things are good for player safety because hopefully it'll shorten the game to some degree so we don't play quite so many plays.
Coach, we have a visitor here at Baumhowers Victory Grill with a question for you. Good evening, ma'am.
Hello. Coach, if you could meet one person, dead or alive, who would it be?
Wow.
Wow.
Boy.
Great question.
Great question. Man, I tell you what, I can't just think of one person. There are like a lot of people. And I think maybe to answer it in a general way, people who were really, really successful and like over and above everybody else, like in the music industry, if you just take like Elvis Presley or Michael Jackson or somebody like that. And I just like to talk to them about what made you, how were you special? What made you that way? And it would be the same thing if you picked the best president of the United States. And I would want to say, what made you, what part of your character, what part of who you were as a person and how you thought about other people made you such a great leader? So I think rather than saying a specific person, I think it would be more along those lines. If you could just categorically say, just like, I love, like I mentioned, Tim Grover. Michael Jordan has talked to the team before, so did Kobe Bryant. Those guys were great at the game, and you could make an argument maybe the greatest that ever played. Some people would put LeBron James in that category too, which he probably deserves to be. But I love talking to those kind of people. So anybody that was that successful that you never got an opportunity to meet, those are the kind of people I'd be interested in talking to. Even if it was somebody that was back in the Roman Empire days and was a great emperor, I'd love to be able to talk to him and find out what made Marcus Aurelius a great leader.
And how can that help you get a football team to win? I mean, there's always a way to turn that around and learn from it.
They got a pretty big stadium over there. That Coliseum's not bad.
I've been trying to do that for a while. Yeah, we went to the Coliseum actually.
Yeah, on your trip.
Yeah, so pretty amazing that they could build something back in those days.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah.
When you stop and take a look at it.
I'm curious, just to swing it back to football for a second. We're asked about the rules changes earlier. You mentioned it might take 7 or 8 plays out of an average game, which is good. Is there anything that you would propose from a rules change standpoint that you think is important as the game continues to evolve?
No, there was a time when I thought the two rule changes that we made that sort of changed college football in a more so than any other thing that could happen. That was catch the ball behind the line of scrimmage and block downfield. And blocking downfield was 1 yard, now it's 3.5 yards. So those two things created RPOs, and it created all these passes where they actually let you be 1 yard downfield. So you got all these zone read slider plays where the guy goes out in the flat. So it's option football now. It's somebody has the quarterback. If he pulls the ball, somebody's got to take the street. Now these guys have double streets. So you got a guy running a diagonal takeoff and this guy coming across and the back going over here. So, but all those things were created because you could catch the ball downfield and still block.
Yeah.
So, and RPOs, you could block downfield on a running play and still throw the ball.
Yeah.
So those took you talk about play action passes, that's more than a play action pass. That's a running play that becomes a pass, which is totally different.
And it's rare to see something new in football.
And when that first all started to happen, I was like, man, I don't know if this is good for the game. But it does make the game more exciting. It does make more explosive plays. I think it's better for the fans. It's more difficult to coach defense, no doubt. All right, but I think that's all probably good. The only other thing that I don't buy into is I don't mind no huddle offense. I think that's great. But I think when the pace of play becomes, you can go so fast, like some of these teams do. They snap the ball in 7 seconds. You can't even get the play called on defense, and you can't substitute unless they substitute. That creates tremendous advantages for the offense as well. And I think there's something to be said for when do you put a player in harm's way when he plays 10 or 12 plays in a row and you're playing at that pace. And it's hard to condition guys to do that. And everybody would say, well, the offensive players do it. Yeah, well, the teams that do that, the offensive line never goes more than 5 yards. The defensive players have to run all the way to the ball every time. So there are some differences in, how that affects different positions.
Will we see some of that from middle Saturday night tempo?
Yeah, they do tempo, and I don't know how much they'll do it against us, but they do it, and it's a way of the world now. But the ability not to substitute, I think that if you could even substitute on a first down or something, where you could get a player out of the game, might be something that would be a good thing for player safety.
Yeah. Coach, let's go to Loosedale, Mississippi. Micah is on the phone with a question. Good evening, sir. Welcome in.
Hey, Eli. How are you?
Good. Thank you, sir.
We sure have missed you. It's good to have you back.
Well, thank you. It's great to be back.
Yeah.
Hey, Coach. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, man. How are you?
Doing great. I can't wait to be in the stadium Saturday night to watch the guys play. I have a question about Will Reichard. We saw him declare for the draft earlier this year, and then he decided to come back to play for the team. How do you feel about him coming back and playing for the Crimson Tide for another season?
Well, I think it's great for us. Will's a great kicker. He's a great person. He's been a real leader on the team. He really impacts and helps the development of the other specialists on our team. He's got great maturity. But I think, this is one of those things where the one thing that players in college, and I think it's all sports, not just football, is if you're a marginal NFL prospect, and I think Will could be a great kicker in the NFL, but if there's one part of your game, like in his case, if he needs to kick off a little better or something, and I'm not saying he does, I'm just saying if there's one thing that he needs to work on, well, you can make some money now staying in college because of name, image, and likeness, and you don't have to say, I'm going to jump in the NFL, and I'm going to just stay here and work on the things that I need to work on so I got a better chance to make it at the next level and maybe prolong my career as a player, because you can use your college career to do that now. where before you couldn't do that. So I think that's a positive thing for players. You know, guys can stay in school now and the quality of life is better, so they don't really need to jump in the NFL unless they're really anxious to. And if a guy thinks he can enhance his development and have a better chance to make it next year by staying in school and improving in some area, they can do it without, affecting the quality of life much.
Sure. We're going to come back, gentlemen. We've got a lot more to talk about here this evening. This is Hey Coach and the Nick Saban Show, presented by Alpha Insurance. We're back with more in just a moment on the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield. We are back. Glad you're with us. Our phone lines are open to you. 877-202-BAMA. That's the Yellow Hammer Brewing Hotline. And feel free to give us a call if you'd like to be part of the conversation. Don't forget Saturday, coverage of Alabama and Middle Tennessee coming your way at 3:30 in the afternoon with kickoff at 6:30. And on the TV side, Tom Hart will be anchoring the coverage on the SEC network, and he is here with us. Jump on in again, sir.
Coach, I'm curious. We've got a SEC team playing right now, Florida on the road at Utah. Obviously, Billy Napier, their head coach. How often are you able to keep tabs on your former assistants during the season when you have so much going on, away from just watching film?
I don't, unless they need some. They usually call.
Yeah.
But if they have a question about something or whatever. But for the most part, look, it's everything you can do to really stay focused on trying to do what you need to do to try to help the guys on your team be the best version of themselves, whether it's personally, academically, or athletically. And we got a lot of people in our organization who contributes to that. We have a great team of people who do it. But to manage all that, I don't have a lot of time to. I want to help anybody that I can help if they need help, but I'm not one of those phone guys that stay in touch with people just to see how they're doing and, all that kind of stuff. But I think those guys all know that if they need something, we'll always be there for them.
Cool. Coach, a gentleman with a question here at Baumhowers. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Excuse me, Coach. My question is, how do you assess this team so far compared to the championship teams from the past?
Yeah, well, I don't like to compare teams because I don't think that's fair. But there's some things that championship teams have always had in common. The teams that had the best mindset. We've always had talented teams, and we've had several other teams that were talented enough to win a championship that didn't. And I think it goes back to talent is not enough. You got to have the right mindset to go with it. So people have to be totally committed and invested in things like discipline and work ethic and perseverance and overcoming adversity and pride in performance, and have that, sort of burning desire to want to accomplish something, want to do something. And you got to have the right chemistry on your team where everybody buys into it, and the leadership on the team does not put up with anybody who's not bought into it and not doing the things that they're supposed to do. And I think that's what sets apart a championship team from some of the teams that were talented enough to win a championship that didn't. And that doesn't mean they weren't good people. It just means they weren't quite as hungry, committed, whatever you want to call it, to doing the things they needed to do to win. And there's always the issue of complacency that you got to deal with, and how satisfied do people get. So I will say this about this team. I don't know if this team is talented enough to win a championship, but I do think they've shown signs of having the right stuff. We got a lot of good guys on the team. We don't have a lot of complainers. We don't have a lot of negative people. A lot of people are positive. A lot of people buy into doing things the way we want them to do it, and to the standard that we want them to do it to. And they're willing to work, and they seem to have pretty good chemistry, and they like playing. They like practicing. They have fun. They enjoy their work. So that hasn't always been true. So, I don't know if we have enough talent to do it, but so far, and so far, because the grind of the season can challenge you and test you as to whether you can persevere that kind of commitment to things, is I've been encouraged by the sort of competitive character this team has.
Jason is next. Coach, thank you for that answer. Jason is in Prattville with a question. Hey, Jason.
Good, Jason. How are you?
Well, I'm doing pretty good. I was going to ask you, I know I seen the other day that Justice Hayes got hurt in practice. How's he doing?
He's all right. He's doing good. He missed probably 3 or 4 days, and he missed, I think, 1 scrimmage, but he's been practicing. He's good. He's a fine young man and a really good player, and one of the freshmen that'll make a significant contribution, I think, to the team. And maybe that role will continue to increase as the season goes on, but he's doing really well.
He's a talent.
You know, speaking of talent, and Eli doesn't know this story, Coach may remember it. When I was here last year, I left here after doing a game, and I went to New York, and I had a Yankees game, and I walked in Aaron Boone's office, and it's full of college football helmets. He loves college football. Mm-hmm. And I had the chance to ask the manager of the New York Yankees and Nick Saban the same question, and back-to-back days, essentially. How do you create value for your players? Because you guys coach at places, and he manages, that have incredible expectations. And you have players that you can pull along sometimes. You need to pull along or kick in the butt to get going. But the bottom line is getting them to believe and trust in you that you can create value for them. How do you do that at this level?
Well, you know, I think one of the players asked Pete Rose that. And Pete Rose said, that's the thing I liked about Sparky Anderson, who, you know, some of you may don't remember, but was great manager of the Detroit Tigers and Cincinnati Reds. And he said, there's a unique talent in knowing when to kick someone in the ass, when to pat them on the ass, and when to just leave them alone. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty much true. You know, you got all different kind of people on your team. You got obsessive, compulsive guys that are trying so hard and want to be perfect and want to do everything right. And when you get on those kind of guys, you're doing nothing but probably driving them in the dirt. And then you got other guys that, you know, they're not self-motivated. They want to please you, but you got to get on them a little bit sometimes. And then other guys, you know, they need a lot of attention. You know, you got to tell them when they do well. They respond well when you let them know that they're doing a good job. So I think there's something to that. But I think the most important thing is you don't get affected by external circumstances. In other words, you say there's a lot of pressure, but pressure comes from within you. So you put pressure on yourself. You can put pressure on yourself if I was coaching at Kent State where I played, or I can put pressure on myself at the University of Alabama. But the external factors, which don't exist a lot at Kent State, but they exist tremendously at Alabama because of expectations and traditions and all that. And I really wouldn't want to coach in some place that doesn't have those things. So that's not all bad. But at the same time, you can't be affected by that. You know, you can't become outcome-oriented and worry about, oh, man, if we don't win the game, what's going to happen? And stay focused on what do we need to do to win the game? How do we need to practice today? What do we need to do? Who do we need to develop and improve? And if you can stay focused on those things, then you get the team to play as well as they're capable of playing, then I think that's my job, not just to win. All right, get them to be good people who do the right things, who play as well as they're capable of playing. And whether you have to motivate them to do it, kick them in the butt to do it, pat them on the butt to do it, or just leave them alone, all right, are all things that I think are helpful in helping you develop that. And when you get to that point, if you can't get to that point, and you got talent, and they got the right culture, and they've got the right chemistry, you're going to have a chance to win.
It's a good point. You know, we have another question kind of in the same general genre here. Alan in Cookeville, Tennessee, reading your blog on AL.com. He said, I personally am excited about our linebackers this year. He said, can you briefly discuss the development of the new guys in the rotation for this fall?
They're all new.
Yeah.
You're talking about inside backers, they're all new.
Yeah.
So
he was just looking for a general overview.
Yeah, well, you know, Trez Marshall has been a good addition for us. He's got a lot of maturity. He's got some experience. But getting Devontae Lawson back, who was hurt quite a bit, played some last year, is really a good player, smart player, good signal caller, good leader on the field. The young guys, you know, Jihad Campbell has shown promise. He had to get his knee scoped about a week or 10 days ago, so he'll probably be doubtful for this game, possible for this game, but probably be able to play in the next game. Those guys are the three inside guys, and of course, you know, Dallas and Braswell, those guys are really good players at outside backer. They're good pass rushers. They're explosive players. They played a lot, so they're really, really good, and we got to keep developing guys behind them.
We're coming right back. More from the coach. We've got a final thought or two here shortly. We'll also get another question or two in from our media guest, Tom Hart, from the SEC Network. But right now, we break for these messages on the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield. Welcome back, everybody. Hey, Coach, and the Nick Saban Show, presented by Alpha Insurance. Protect your car, home, life, and business with Alpha. Get a quote or find a local agent at alphainsurance.com. Our phone lines are open. If you'd like to join us, 877-202-BAMA. Coach, let's talk briefly about Middle Tennessee. I don't want to get totally engulfed in them, but nevertheless, there are some names on that roster. And Scott Schaefer, their defensive coordinator, who has given some top, Power 5 programs a handful over the years. What makes them difficult?
Well, I think, first of all, you mentioned the defensive coordinator. They do a lot of pressure on defense. Mm-hmm. So if you're not really well prepared for blocking all their stunts and pressures up front, they're going to, and they've been a little bit of a big, little type defense. They give you a lot of negative plays. They get a lot of turnovers. Excuse me, but Sure. They give up quite a few plays sometimes as well. So I think if you're well prepared and you can block their stunts and their pressures, you can take advantage of some of the things that are available to you. So you got to have a good plan. You got to go do a good job of executing it. On offense now, they're really, really well coached. They got a good quarterback. They give you fits with a lot of spread formations, a lot of empty, a lot of motions, a lot of adjustments, a lot of formation into the boundary. So this is a very challenging, preparation for the defensive players. So it makes it a good first game. And yep. I have respect for these guys. I mean, they beat Miami last year pretty handily, actually. And, they beat San Diego State in a bowl game. So these guys are really capable of playing well, and I think, it'll be a good test for us.
Well, Coach, it's that time on the clock which says your final word is up again here this evening. Your final word, as always, presented by Mercedes-Benz. Mercedes-Benz, the vehicles are all electric. The feeling is all Mercedes.
Yeah, well, this is what you prepare for all year, as a player. You go through off-season program. You go through spring practice. We've worked all summer long. It's been a really, really difficult camp because we've had some great circumstances to work in and opportunities from the standpoint of the heat and all that type of stuff. So, but this is why you do it all. You do it all so you're well prepared to go out there and play the first game. And I think the biggest, question I ask players is, can your teammates trust you? Can your teammates trust you to go out there and not only be accountable to do your job, but be accountable to them? Because we need 11 people to go out there and do their job on a consistent basis so that we can play winning football at all positions. So the season's here. Now's the time to do it. Now's the time to get ready for it. We're excited about it. I hope the fans are excited about it. I like this team. I like the attitude on this team and the character that they have. And I'm excited about seeing how well they go out and execute and play in the game. And until you play a game, you never know how that's going to go. So give us a good idea of where we are and where we need to go, and I'm excited about having the opportunity to get out there on Saturday night at home in Bryant-Denny Stadium.
It's going to be a great time. Coach, great to be with you again, opening up another season on the show, and we'll talk to you throughout the weekend. Thanks, as always, for your time.
All right, thank you. Appreciate you.
All right.
Thanks.
And Tom Hart, good to see you, sir. You guys should have a good broadcast on Saturday. I look forward to watching it afterwards and going over the tape myself.
Send me your notes, please, and I'll do the same with yours.
All right.
Great to
Sounds
see
good.
you back.
Thanks, Tom. Tom Hart from ESPN and the SEC Network.